And we're live. Happy
Hey,
Friday,
Steve,
Maxine.
I saw you rocking out there to our theme song.
I can't help it because it's just the jam is too good. So I make sure I could hear it well and then
I know, I
just get
saw it.
into it.
I saw it.
Yeah.
Well, it's another day, another Friday, another week of what in the world of identity.
How's your May 30th? How's it been today?
Well, it's a beautiful day here this morning in Colorado. I have to say, we've had a lot of rain. It's been a very rainy spring, but it's beautiful today. So I'm hoping to get a bike ride in. And
Very
I
good.
enjoyed my Memorial Day weekend off. Did you have a lovely Memorial Day weekend too?
I did. I did actually spend some time on the Midway with a friend that was in town. I've been there
Cool.
before, and his family hadn't, so that was good. And it was really good weather. We had some rain in San Diego too. I love that
Wow.
post rain weather though. After it's been cleaned and cleared, and then suddenly you've got sun, and I'm looking forward to the weekend.
It gets the pollen out of the air here too for me, which is like a big plus anyway. So here
Yeah.
we are again.
Well,
It's
let's get
another
into some
crazy week.
topics.
Yeah.
I wrote a post earlier in the week, and I had already planned to write it ahead of Time Magazine doing a cover
Okay.
on the orb. Are you
The
human? Are we
orb.
human?
Oh
Like,
no.
yeah, the
It's the
comments
orb.
on my post have been interesting. I've seen words like nonsense. What's your take on world's orb device that
So
is
so
out
so
there?
my old age is going to show here, right? Because I've been in this space for 20 years, and when I first got into biometrics, everything was specialized devices, whether it was face, iris, finger, whatever. It was all specialized devices. And we did not really see massive mainstream adoption of biometric technology until it was on our phones. It went from being, what are these really creepy, weird devices to, oh, it's cool. It's on my iPhone. I love it. Right. So I think this is kind of bringing back the creepy. And maybe that's why people are reacting the way they're reacting.
Yeah, that's part of the sentiment there. And I don't think it's just in the comments on my post. I've been reading about the governments that have banned the device, whether it was
Yep.
government of Brazil, a bunch of countries in Europe were saying, hey, this is not GDPR compliant. And the
Yeah.
world just is moving different markets. They raised a bunch of money, and now they've got
A lot
their
of money.
eyes, or their orb eyes set on the US. They want to
Ooh,
roll
it's the
something like
orb eyes.
7,500 of these out. And what I found interesting too is they have other versions of it. So the big orb is the one that's out there, but they have an orb mini. They're working on a handheld. They're trying to build a community model where you could sign up to be like a orb leader and
Oh
go
God.
set up shop and then just scan people in mass, which seems a
Yeah.
little bit
So iris recognition is really accurate. It's definitely incredibly accurate. It's technology that works really well. I think the idea of a private company building up a massive centralized database of images
mm,
is a bit of an issue. And I think, yeah, I think these devices creep people out. And I think I don't know. I think we'll see. There's a lot of money behind it, but I'm skeptical. Call me skeptical right now, and we'll see
yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah, we'll definitely wait and see. Well, speaking of initiatives to create digital identity data at scale, you sent me this. This is something out of Greece on a personal citizen number unique digital ID system. What was your take on this one that
So
came out?
I think it's great on some level that they're saying yes, people need to have unique personal identity numbers. I think that they're not using this necessarily to replace all the other numbers for taxes and social benefits and so on. It's going to live in a wallet. I think it screams for strong biometric binding to make sure that these numbers are attached to individual humans. And I think that's the place where they're not quite there yet. So I think it's a move in the right direction, um, but I think it has a long way to go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you made a comment about the orb in my post about India's Adhar network and the fact that they have that, and they also have biometric binding and a massive database there. I think it's always a balance for governments when they're trying to roll out data centric and biometric centric pieces at the same time.
Well, and there are technologies available to allow organizations to collect that data, particularly, talking about government organizations, in a way that is privacy preserving. And so I think that's really the next phase is how do we really build these privacy
Mhm.
technologies into the solutions we're deploying. And by the way, that's the topic of the next PRISM report that's going to be coming out in September. For those of you who follow the PRISM You know, privacy and compliance. I think it's taken sort of a second seat to a lot of other issues. And I think what we're going to see now, especially as these kind of programs, whether it's the orb or whether it's just kind of, ID number system, we have to really start taking privacy seriously. And it has to come from the industry. We can't just expect other people to
Yeah.
regulate us, other organizations. So
So you
yeah,
don't
I
want to
think
send a bunch of orbs to Greece? Is that you're
we
also saying that
could,
too, right?
we
Yeah.
could do that.
Got to
I
connect
don't
the
know if you
topics.
like it.
Well, let's go on to the next one. We saw this partnership announced between
Yep.
Dayon and
And G
G&D.
and D.
How do you pronounce it? We don't
I
know.
call it G and D.
G&D. Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to offend anybody, so I just stick with G and D. It's right there in their logo. I
Yeah.
think they
If
know
there
that.
are any German-speaking audience members, if you could put it out phonetically how they like to say their name, or we could go find. I'm sure they have YouTube
Or
videos
they could
or something
record
to
a
talk.
little
They could think.
audio bit and just put it into the comments. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But
Say
anyway, yeah,
my
so this is
name. Yep.
interesting, interesting partnership. I think that, Dayon is known really as a longtime provider of really high caliber technology, core technology in the biometric space, but also as a company that really understands IDV and how you create secure, reliable, and privacy enhancing identity platforms. And G&D, I think this particular partnership is around their SIM verification product. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they're going to bring that high level of assurance that Dayon really provides to their platform and their biometric technologies into that SIM verification process. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how that partnership evolves, and I'm looking forward to seeing Dayon at our next topic, which is
Identiverse. Yes.
coming up next week.
Vegas, baby. Here we go again. How
So
many times a year can we go to Vegas?
Usually like 3 or 4 or 5,
At
maybe 6
least.
times a year is good. I mean, that's a good Vegas
Yeah.
trip dosage. Should be
Vegas
plenty
is
hot
not
too.
my favorite place. At least it's not going to be 104 degrees there when we go next week, which it's supposed to be this weekend. It's going to be like a cool 90, I think. So that made me happy. I saw a temperature warnings up to 106. I'm like, that's not my idea of a good time. Especially because I get a and take a walk on the strip before it gets crazy. But Identiverse is coming. I haven't been for a while, so I'm really looking forward to it. One of the things I think is super interesting about Identiverse from my perspective and the Prism Project is that so many of our sponsors are going to be at Identiverse, in particular sponsors of our upcoming report, the Deepfake and Synthetic Identity Report, which is going to be released next week and, launched at Identiverse. So we'll be there handing out cards with QR codes. So folks at Identiverse, vendors, participants, speakers, media will be the very first to get their hands on those QR codes.
Yeah, and speaking of that, there's a graphic for it. This is the cover that's coming out on this report.
It's a little creepy.
The timing is great, although looking at the programming and the agenda, I don't think deep fakes are as prevalent in this conference as they were in some of the others that we've attended this last 6 months, but more agentic commerce and agentic AI and
which I think is super interesting, because if you can't accurately identify humans in the digital identity ecosystem, how do we accurately identify the agentic AI? And like, to me, the worst case is the agentic AI gets a deep fake and now now they're fooling humans. So, to me, this whole deep fake and synthetic identity problem, which has been, a huge problem, it's making it's been spread across the headlines. Clearly people think this is a large issue. And I think really, rather than saying, oh, agentic AI is the new shiny thing that displaces this, I think, no, agentic AI drives into this problem even further, because we have to be able to distinguish between humans and AI agents and dumb bots and every other kind of machines, every other kind of entity that's interacting in the digital identity ecosystem, and be able to classify and identify them easily.
Yeah. Yeah. As I pay attention to the news, I feel like more of the mainstream media is starting to focus on the deepfake issue. It's certainly been in our circles around digital identity and biometrics, but now average everyday citizens who are not in technology they're getting blown away. I think the new Google VO3 model that came out that can create videos. I did a sample one of that last week. It's pretty powerful what you can create with prompts. And that's technology that gets in the hands of bad actors and they can
Well,
do
and I
bad
just
things.
saw a statistic, in getting ready for getting the report out, and it was basically saying something on the order of 50+% of consumers are actually worried about deep fakes of
Mm,
themselves being used to get into their accounts and things. So, as you said, it's broken through.
yeah,
It's definitely
yeah.
broken through.
Well, our music's died out. We've got one last graphic here, which is the sponsors. You want to give a quick
Yeah,
shout out before we wrap up?
I am so excited. We have, the Prison Project continues to grow. I think, the level of tier one sponsors that we have is really exciting. We have two new organizations that are part of the group this year, and that's the FIDO Alliance and the Secure Technology Alliance, which I think really speaks to the work that we're doing and the value it brings to the broader identity community. So I'm super excited about it. And if you're at Identiverse and you're interested in participating, then please let us know. One of the things I thought was super interesting when I looked over the vendor list was, again, that so many of these folks are actually sponsors of Identiverse, but also something like 80%, I think, of the vendors that we're evaluating in this upcoming report, Deepfakes and Synthetic Identity, I think it's over 220. Like 80% of those vendors are actually going to be um, at
The show.
Identiverse.
Mm.
Not that doesn't count all the relying parties, right? We have quite a few relying parties in there that make up that 220. But of the pure vendors, it's amazing how many of them are going to be at Identiverse. So
Well, I am looking forward to seeing you in Las Vegas and seeing all of
yeah,
the sponsors and all the companies. That kicks off Tuesday, and yeah, we'll have a great few days there talking identity topics and
yeah. And I'm
all,
I'm
all of
waiting
the
for
things that
my
come with it.
point of view. I want my Steve Craig point of view interview.
The Ray-Bans will be coming with me, so you're gonna get a point
Excellent.
of view, and maybe I can even lend them to you, and you could do a couple
Oh my God,
recordings. I
that
think
that
that'd
would
be
be
cool.
scary.
Yeah.
That
All
might be
right.
scary.
Well, we're at time, Maxine. I think we wrap it up. Any final words for those on?
Just have a
Looking
great
ahead.
weekend. We'll see you next week in Vegas, and be looking out for that deepfakes and synthetic identity report.
All right. Bye, everyone.